Steve,
Yes.
Patsy, Wayne,
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a 7-0 to approve the agenda. All right, Dr. Benson, I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the board's flexibility in allowing us to schedule this special call meeting to discuss a revision in our recommendation and transitioning to Plan B. So I do have a few slides I'd like to share with the board, and then we'll open it up for discussion among board members. First of all, I want everybody to know, the board and our community as well, is that we are ready to welcome students back to our classrooms. We have distributed a lot of supplies out to the schools, including hand sanitizer, face shields, gloves, disposable masks, plexiglass dividers. And our folks have worked really hard to accommodate needs across the system as a whole. We are meeting all of the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services safety requirements. We have worked with staff who have requested some accommodation, whether through a federal request or a local request related to things like unstable childcare or living with somebody who might be more at risk if they were to contract the virus. We have met family requests. We have folks that want their young people, students, children to remain in full remote learning, and we have those that want to come to a blended learning model, and we've been able to meet those requirements, those requests. That we have had to make some changes in student assignments, but we have tried to keep that at a minimum. I can say that the majority of our students are staying with their previously assigned teacher. That varies a little bit by school depending upon requests, but principals have worked real hard to make that work for families across the system as a whole. So I think it's important for folks to understand we are ready. And so whether it's now, a few weeks from now, or whatever the board may choose moving forward, we are ready to welcome students back to school. So we've got some numbers here that were brought to our attention, updated late this week, that have caused us to have some concerns about the current timeline for returning to blended learning as the board previously approved. One is the direction that the state is going in terms of positive COVID-19 cases, and I realize I have a spelling mistake on that slide, which we'll fix. In any case, the numbers are up. Just yesterday we had 2,400 new cases across North Carolina, and while that is not a record number, it is among the highest number of new cases on a daily basis. The other metric that is giving us concern is our local test positivity. And a few weeks ago, we were looking at test positivity that was hovering right around 5%, and that was the time we were talking about what it would look like for us to return to a blended learning model. That has increased in each of the last two weeks, first to 7.7 positivity and most recently to 8. I'll remind the board that when we made the decision to remain in remote learning for everybody for the first marking period, we were looking at a test positivity in the community that was sitting at 8.8. So we're not far off. We're concerned in the direction that this is headed, and obviously at this point is not headed in a positive direction. Another data point that brings some concern to us is the percentage of community spread. The health department shared with us that approximately 65% of the positive COVID cases in our community are the result of community spread. I know there's been some conversation about spread within places like nursing homes, but the information that was shared with us again indicates that 65% of the cases is the result of community spread, and that is concerning to us, whether it's small social gatherings or other opportunities for our citizens to interact with each other. It's important that we try to get that number down as much as possible. And so as a result of looking at those metrics, I am recommending to the board that we pause
thereafter on November 18th, grades 3 through 5. And the reason for that is where we've been. In June, we had a high of positivity rate in Alamance County of close to 15%. And then in July, it was consistent around 9 to 11%. And when the board met, I thought it was the right thing to do with health and safety in mind, given where we were to start the year full remote. But when we hit the October 5th meeting, things had changed dramatically. In August, began to tick down. And then in September, a significant decrease in our positivity rate. And throughout the month, it hovered around 5 to 6%. And when we met to begin that phased approach, we had finally dipped under 5% at 4.9. And I thought it was the right thing to do. Again, balancing health with education, social, and emotional needs of our students and begin phasing in. But since then, as you outlined, the positivity rate has jumped, but also the hospitalization rate in our county has jumped. When we met last time, it was 14, now it's 30. The total case count has gone up 17% in the last 2.5 weeks. And unfortunately, 16 more of our fellow Alamance County citizens lost their lives. So when looking at that, I've struggled with what's the decision today? Is it to support all of the right intent that you have to delay? And I just can't support that. And I agree with the motion, and I'm going to vote for it, that we, instead of delaying a couple of more weeks, we give clarity to our educators, we give clarity to our parents about what the next 9 weeks to the end of the term look like, and that we stay full remote. Given the fact of where we are with our health data. More importantly, I do think that we just can't put everybody in limbo for a couple of weeks, because I think we are extremely likely to be having the same set of variables just in 2 more weeks. And with a holiday schedule coming up, our blended learning model does admittedly cut down synchronous live instruction. So that, combined with days off with the holiday schedule, it just seems to me that we are stable with our virtual learning model, and we should stick with it the rest of the way. Our teachers are doing a great job. I know it's not working for everybody, but for the vast majority it is.
And I believe them. I also had a father to email me last night a bunch, and I understand why. And he said, Pam, I know how ticked off you get about the rest home counts in other states and in our own county. 9 out of 12 deaths since October 1, as of Monday, have been from rest home facilities. So, that's another whole population that needs to really be looked at. But this father asked me, he said, will you please talk about the disproportionate effect on communities of color? And I know how many thousands of free and reduced lunches of young people. I hate to classify kids as free and reduced lunch. That the services going out. I was in Graham the other day, right there at the Board of Elections, and I'm behind a school bus. And I'm gonna tell y'all, it was like I was looking at something I didn't understand, because that's the first time I've seen a school bus in months. And I watched a guy come out of a house and he got 3 big bags of food. And I thought that means there's 3 kids in that house, and that means they're home. And I thought about, statistics have said, studies have said, all the professionals in the world on news media that bombard us every day have said that the Black and brown communities take a big hit when it comes to this disease. And I know Patsy can back me up on this. She knows the stats. And many of us on this board, probably all of us on this board. But I worry about that, because I know what's going on. I talk to DSS. I talk to the leaders in DSS, and I talk to juvenile crime. And I'm hearing since the raise the age to 18, we got some stuff with young people because they're not on their computer. I go out in the community all the time. I saw 3 kids on skateboards in downtown Graham yesterday during school. And so let's not pat ourselves on the back about how great remote's working, because anything we're having to change as far as what we're used to always doing is going to be a big adjustment, and we're going to have that's just not going to happen. But I know there's several schools in our community that are running and they're doing well. There's other counties that are running, doing well, the best they can with what they're doing. And I appreciate that. I've been working the polls. Lord have mercy. I've seen people I hadn't seen since I was a kid, and they're out in line. And a lot of them, I was at Michael's yesterday, and there was a bunch of kids with their moms buying Halloween decorations. So people are out, and they're out at the times when they're on remote, quote unquote. And y'all know how I feel about this. And I'm just not going to change my mind on it, because I don't want one person to be sick or lose their life. But that is life. And unfortunately, we have cancer, heart disease. We have everything that works against us as human beings. And it's really, really sad. But I look at this, and every time it changes, we have a meeting. We have to change. We have to delay. A strong household and a strong set of parents that support their children, and their kids aren't on the street on skateboards or having all these situations that I know with what I work with that's going on. If you don't believe that, you're wrong. You are more than wrong. And I just, when I hear my superintendent say we're ready, I know what they worked again. We are all on this emotional roller coaster, and none of us bought a ticket. But we got to stop it if we have to use our own feet to stop it, because we are dragging families up, down, just like that bar graph. I'd love to see the emotional, mental well-being of all of our kids and their families put on a bar graph. It would look like here to the moon, here to the moon. And I know I am just ranting and raving, and it's not going to do a bit of good. When Patsy comes out with her emotion, it's already been decided. And that's fine, but let everybody know that I'm not for it. And I'm going to wait, and I'm going to see y'all in January whenever you're going to come back with these stats, and you're going to, oh, we're going to keep them all remote. I don't see us going back to school, and I don't see children's really, really mental health being thought about with this virus, because kids are depressed, parents are depressed. Single father last week I dealt with, he's got to work. He's all his kid has, and his kid got dropped in the system. And it's not just him, and it's humans, because we're not used to doing this. Dennis Fry sends us an email every now and then, boom, it's gone down. And I just think of the frustration that must be going through the households in this Alamance County. Every household except for the ones that are in school. We got too many kids for this to work and work well, just like the state, just like the whole country. We weren't wired to do everybody online. We're learning that the hard way. Raleigh, I encourage you to up it, however you can do it. But I know I get mixed emotions and mixed emails all the time, and I promise you I respect every angle you're coming from, because board members, we're not in the classroom. We're not teaching this online. We don't have children running around our house. Brian, you do, but you're at work as well, and you got it mastered. But we don't have that. We're not walking in these shoes. We're also not walking in the shoes of teachers, because we're not doing that. We're board members, and we just make the decisions. And I dare say, I would bet my superintendent is ready to go back to school, because he's expected his staff and everybody in the school system to get ready back to school. And we're bailing. I'm sorry, that's what we're doing. We're bailing on kids that need school more than they need anything in their lives. But we're practicing. We're conditioning for sports. But yet we're going to delay. Are we going to delay them? Are we going to pull them off the field, out of the basketball court? What's 1 for 1? We got to think about stuff like that. We're being selective. And I want sports. I want it all. And I might not be able to get it all. And I'm the one of 7 who feels this way. And I don't mind feeling this way. And I just pray that we will, because I won't be part of this anymore, that you will make the right decision, no matter how tough it is. If we don't get over the hump, if we're not brave enough to even try the hump, we're never going to be on the other side of it. And this disease is going to own us, and it's going to destroy us. And I know what it's doing to kids. I know what it's doing to families. I know what it's doing to teachers. We're all in the same bucket. We may feel differently about the way to go, but we're all in the same bucket. So that's it. Now you can pile on me and fuss at me. I don't care.
Thank you, Pam.
You still say
Of course. I always respect you, Pam. I appreciate your passion and your comments. Steve, do you have comments or questions? Steve, can you unmute?
Is that better?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, as we're meeting today, there are other school boards across the state that are meeting too. I understand Guilford, Forsyth, Ashboro are 3 local ones that are also meeting and considering similar things that we are today. As I see it, we had 3 choices. We could stay with our plan that we adopted on October 5th. We could the second thing would be to go with the superintendent's recommendation that Dr. Benson laid out. And the third is the motion that Ms. Simpson made. And I support that motion for a number of reasons. Give me just a second here. You know, we look at risk, and is the risk worth the benefits? And I don't think it is. I don't think the risk is worth the benefits that we may have for that period of time. We think of the period of time we're getting ready to go into, which is Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's holidays. There's going to be a lot of gatherings in the community during that time. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity for the virus to spread among all people at all ages. And we're going to be having, say for Thanksgiving, people are going to be gathered, and then the kids are going to be coming back to school along with the staff. And I think that's going to put everybody, the whole community, at a higher risk, not just us, but I think Thanksgiving will put us at a higher risk as a community, as will Christmas and New Year's. The January 15th date, to me, will give time from the New Year's to let this virus perhaps subside, and we can see where we're going to be in the middle of January. But that's kind of where I'm at this point. I don't have my own children running around, but I do see my grandchildren quite frequently. Generally, I'm seeing at least 2 of them every day. And they're working hard. They're doing their lessons. They've adapted to this. Plan B would be a change for them. as would be for everyone in elementary school. And as again, I say, I don't think the risk is greater. Excuse me, let me get this right. The risk is not worth any benefits we would do by delaying for 2 or 3 weeks and then coming back in. I think the parents too need to have an expectation of what's going to happen over the next while. And if they can look at the next 2.5 months out to January 15th, I think that will create, they may not like it, but it will create stability. And we won't be back here every 2 or 3 weeks trying to second guess what the virus is going to do. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Wayne, comments or questions?
I'm ready to vote. No comments, no questions. I'm ready to vote.
Thank you, Wayne. Patsy, additional comments or questions?
Yes. Just going into as to why I made the motion, I really looked at teaching and learning and the instructional time, and I looked to see how many actual days would our students in pre-K through 3 actually get with the holidays and everything that's coming up. And then I looked at our students who are doing all distance learning and the fact that they would not have direct teacher instructional time for the 5 days like they're getting now. It would be reduced to 2.5. I also took in consideration safety, of course. As we can tell from the charts that's been presented, we have done everything that we can do to prepare for the return of school. But there's one thing that we can't do, and that is to control the behaviors that is reflected in that chart by not following, wearing a mask, washing your hands, and social distancing. And because of that, not being able to control it, yes, the kids will come back. Our staff is currently back, but because of behaviors that is maybe not within our school system, but coming into our school system is something that we can't control. So having to, hopefully, the thing that I pray most of all with this is that we as a community will begin to do those things so that the matrix that we established early on in these conversations, which is, I think was 5%, that we would like to see some consecutive days at 5% of new cases, that we can get to that point where we can safely say that the community is reacting to our requests and that we feel that we can have our children back. I love you, Pam, but I just take an exception with, the fact that, and I can't remember, I didn't write down exactly what you quoted, but to say we've given up, that is a little bit, I know you don't mean it that way, but that is far from the truth. We have not given up. We've taken all of this time to try to come up with a plan, which I'm appreciative that the staff have. But I see this as an opportunity to also to give the staff time to work on those items that Brian brought up in terms of how can we not change out our teachers? How can we get more instructional time for our children? That portion of this in plan as Dr. Benson has presented causes me concern. The last thing I want to say about this is, Pam, I know you didn't mean it. I love you, girl. But my phone is just beeping and beeping with people saying that they take an exception with what you just said about people of color and the fact that you relayed that to free and reduced lunch as well as to crop.
No.
I know you didn't mean it that way, sweetheart.
I'll finish after you. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. I personally, you know, I love you to death. And I know you did not mean it that way because many people of color are not on free and reduced lunch, and nor are we out skateboarding and or, you know, criminal offenses. So I know what you're saying. I know your heart, sweetheart, but I just had to mention that to you, that I know you. And for the people out there who right now, I see WFMY is carrying this meeting live and it's hitting a lot of people. That is not Pam Thompson. That was not her intentions by any means. You know, I think that this time will also give us additional time for our mental health staff and counselors and social workers to work directly with these children in some type of remote situations where they can address the mental health. Those kids that are out there on the skateboarding and in the streets or whatever may unfortunately be the same ones who have low attendance rates at school. Mm-hmm. And it's not the majority of our children. The majority of our children and our teachers and staff are very involved with teaching and learning. And yes, you know, the few times that I do go out, I have seen some that give me grave concerns. But, you know, for one, I would hope, you know, those young people out on Apple Street every day during school hours, I hope that our social workers or somebody can go out and see those children and identify what the problems are. So this is a difficult decision. I think some other things that we might need to discuss after the motion is to get some clarity on athletics based on our previous votes. I think we need to also discuss what our teachers and staff and the ability to work from home, to also give them that opportunity to be safe. And we need a plan to go forward with the administration in terms of our expectations as a board in terms of addressing those items that Brian mentioned earlier. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
And as a board member, I would like to come back to that because it's nothing. I just want to make sure that anybody listening to this, the only part that I said about black and brown being minorities has took a real hit in this situation. American Pediatrics has talked about this. It's been talked about by the highest doctors because of any situation with that, because usually that population many times takes a hit when we are in school just because of any type of situation. You know, color and poverty are not the same thing, and neither is ignorance in color and poverty. We are all what we are, and we are all just fine. But when I hear the statistics, when this father writes me about how this has really done a number on the opportunities for this population, you daggum right, I'm going to stand up for it. And not one part of my mouth, do not put words in my mouth, said anything about what was on the skateboard, what was at Michael's, what was in voting. I said people. So before we get all in uproar or something like that, please don't put those words in my mouth. And not you, Patsy, because you know me. But don't jump from one thing to the next saying that. I am concerned about all children. I am really concerned about all children. And I think when I hear some of us and all of us and whoever of us mention that, you know, one more, just a little bit, just wait, you're taking hope, because you get someone that's got really bad, really serious mental illness and they get arrested, 30 days in the jail is a flipping death sentence. So I know that certain populations in our county are suffering beyond what we think they're suffering. So taking up for kids, I don't care what color you are, how tall, how short, how cute, how whatever you are, I'm gonna always be on your side. So please do not put words in my mouth of stuff like that, because that is just not happening.
Thank you. Tony, comments or questions?
I have no comments, and I vote yes for the motion.
At this time, I'll just make a couple of quick comments. And this has been a roller coaster ride, as I believe one of my colleagues mentioned, and trying to find the right entry point is going to consistently be a challenge. I agree wholeheartedly that our children need to be in school. We need to do the right thing all the way around. And so when we are looking at all students, one size doesn't fit all, and we understand that. I do appreciate the staff and the hard work that's gone into the preparation to prepare us to return our younger students to Plan B. I will say that the delay is not something that I think is a good idea for when you look at the number of days our students would actually get that instruction from the 18th up until our Christmas break. It is limited. I believe several of our colleagues have said so. We also see our surrounding counties also pulling back, and they've been to school and now they are returning back, and they are now having to go back to full remote, and that continues to put families in limbo, and it really does challenge them. I will say that many of the points that Brian made were very important, and I would like to also echo those, that we need to make sure that we are prepared when we open that school to give full instruction. And I would ask that our staff work very hard to make sure that it appears this motion will pass, and that we will shore up that Plan B reentry. Maybe we'll be blessed and be able to do Plan A, but we've got to get our kids back in school. And I believe the opportunity to take a few extra weeks to really shore that up. Changing teachers has been something we've heard from parents. We've heard from both sides. I don't want anyone to think that it's been a one-sided discussion to the board. I believe all board members are receiving emails from both sides, and I appreciate it. We have a very challenging decision, and nothing is right for everyone. And I appreciate my colleagues and their comments, and I will agree that we need to make sure that we are prepared to get our students back in bed and back into our schools in January. And I'm going to ask that our district staff make sure that our plans are strong. If every individual school needs to create a reentry plan for what works for their building, then I'm going to encourage our staff to do that. So at this time, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. I will ask, is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Patsy.
Just a clarification. I said all students, so I would, I'm thinking pre-K as well. Is that what the majority of the our board members are thinking as well?
I will ask if there's anyone who, if the motion is to include pre-K, is there anyone who wishes to pull that out for a separate vote?
I'm just curious, if you're going to put everybody in, are you going to pull them off the fields and the courts? Or are you going to leave them in the athletic training conditioning things? Because that is so important to mental health for many, many children. That's their hope.
I think we said we would address that.
Unless Dr. Benson wants to have a counterpoint to this, at each step of the process, he and his staff have asked us to perhaps think differently. We made different votes on pre-K than K through 2 and 3 through 5, but in terms of trying to consider reopening, to think of the pre-K alongside our decision making as it relates to K2 and 3 through 5. So I hear your motion to include pre-K all the way through grade 5, because that was the phase of approach that we took in mind. So I will leave that in.
Okay, but will this include also, I'm getting a text, ACC students? Or will they continue to adhere to the guidelines at ACC. Just because
I don't think that changes anything, does it? Does it? Because our ACC students are high school students, and they're already virtual for first semester. How about the developmental disabled that we were going to bring back, those classes?
Okay, so there are two questions that I'm hearing. One is we're asking about our ACC students, and the second question is adaptive curriculum. So Dr. Benson, can you address those two, please, or have someone address them?
So, Madam Chair, our ACC students should continue to follow the schedule at ACC, and I would ask that the board keep those students as a separate issue. I think, our intention was to bring students back as previously recommended, and as such, I would ask that the board keep pre-K and adapted curriculum students together as part of your consideration with the other students we had intended to bring back.
Does that give clarity
Yes.
to the board?
Yes.
Yeah. So what you're saying, there's no need to divide to divide the question.
It doesn't sound as if. Dr. Benson, do you agree?
I agree.
Okay. Okay. So are there any other questions or comments regarding this particular motion? Pam, I heard your question regarding athletics. Let us deal with that after this vote, and then we'll get some
Well, I just
direction.
don't want them to, I don't want them to
may-
lose that. I just don't want them to lose that.
Okay. Well, I don't think that removing athletics was in the motion at this time. We certainly can revisit that on Monday evening if we need to. And maybe some discussion I can have with Dr. Benson before Monday night. And if anybody else would like to have some discussion with him regarding that, we can certainly do that. Okay. So at this time, the motion on the floor is to remain in Plan C for pre-K through 5 and leaving our middle and high schools currently on their remote learning plan. Did I capture your motion correctly, Patsy?
Yes.
Okay. So at this time, I will take the vote. Brian?
Yes.
Pam?
No.
Steve?
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes, ma'am.
Patsy?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Thank you. So that is a 6-1 vote to remain our students on remote until January 15th. Okay, board members, at this time, if it pleases the board, since this was an emergency meeting, would you be amenable to having the discussion around the clarity of athletics as well as the staff working from home take place Monday evening at our standing board meeting?
Yes.
Thank you, Wayne. Tony? Did we lose Tony?
Yes.
Okay, Patsy,
Yes.
Pam,
That's fine.
and Brian.
Yes, that's fine. I'd also be interested whether it's for that meeting or an upcoming one, given the time to prepare. I'm inclined to see great value in the suggestion that Mr. Beam as well as Ms. Simpson have recently made that school, that the board gets a chance to review and see reopening plans school by school.
Okay. Okay, we can have that discussion as well. And Steve, are you okay with those two remaining till Monday?
Yes.
Okay. So at this time, if there's no further business to come before the board, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Patsy. Brian,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Tony. Is he
Yes.
still? Thank you. Patsy,
Yes.
Wayne.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's a 7-0 vote for adjournment. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.